Hi, everybody. It's Brad Truax here from Eastman's Woodlands and Wildlife Committee. And today we're going to talk about what happens to wildlife during heat spells. We, of course, it's July 2026, and here in New England, we're in the midst of a heat wave. A stationary high pressure front is pushing warm air downward, creating what's called a heat dome that's keeping the temperatures really high for long periods of time. The temperatures are approaching 100 degrees Fahrenheit or above 100 degrees, and the high humidity levels make it feel much hotter. We've done a whole presentation on how wildlife cope with winter, but now we're going to talk about how do they cope with this record-breaking heat. They actually use a variety of physiological mechanisms and behavioral activities to tolerate these sky-high temperatures. One of the landmarks in human evolution was when we developed sweat glands. That allowed humans to be able to hunt during hot, sunny days while much of their prey had limited mobility because of the heat. And unfortunately, many other mammals do not have thermoregulatory sweating. Some do have sweating from their paws, but that does not play a role in thermal regulation. Horses and many primates do have thermoregulatory sweating. But all the others need to find other ways to keep cool in this sweltering heat. So, how do animals tolerate the heat? Uh, Many seek shelter in shady, cooler areas. That could be underground, under a log, under trees, in caves, underwater, and other areas. Many wallow in the mud or wade in the water. Panting is extremely important. It allows evaporation from the tongue and is one of the biggest mechanisms animals use to cool down. Cold-blooded animals like reptiles and amphibians seek shelter either in water or under rocks. Some radiate heat through exposed surfaces. Many birds will radiate heat from their legs and their feet. Some animals, particularly ones with big ears, will radiate heat through their ears. And some increase their surface area so the wind can help cool them down. And guard hairs, which provide insulation against the cold, also produce some degree of insulation against heat. And many animals will change their behaviors. For instance, while they used to hunt mainly during the daytime, now they switch their activities to hunting during dusk or dawn or at nighttime. And that avoids being out exposed during the hot daytime. And of course, they all need to drink lots of water. So again, many will seek shelter in shady, cooler areas. Many mammals, like foxes and groundhogs and rabbits, will rest in shaded areas or in underground burrows. Snakes and lizards will shelter under logs, leaf litter, or shaded rocks. Birds often retreat to thick shrubs or under leafy canopies of trees. Some animals will wallow in the mud or wade in the water. So again, panting is an extremely important mechanism. Many animals pant to cool off. Of course, you've seen your dogs doing panting, but panting allows evaporation of liquid off their tongue and the inside of the mouth, and it actually helps lower their body temperature. And many other mammals, like deer and moose, also pant as a thermoregulatory response. Um, some animals wallow in the mud. They roll in the mud to cool off. This is called wallowing. And moose, pigs, elephants, hippos, and others will wallow in the mud. And wallowing also creates a crust over their skin that protects them from insects and parasites. And this was an area where moose had been wallowing. And if you notice over here, you can see some moose tracks. So moose are, because they don't sweat, they're very heat intolerant. And actually, their heat stress for a moose begins when the temperature is only about 57 degrees Fahrenheit. So again, that's why they're a northern species. They actually have to avoid the hot weather. And moose like to wade in the water on hot days to cool off. We mentioned they'll also lie in the mud to cool off. And their long legs allow them to wade in moderately deep water. And they can also swim in that deep water. And they'll also seek shade and cool wind on hot days. So here's a moose simply lying down in kind of a shaded area with some tall grass. And panting is another mechanism that the moose will use to cool off. Birds may adjust their feathers in certain ways to increase airflow across a complex series of air sacs, and that helps keep them cool. Others will look for bird baths. Some birds will gape, that's opening their beaks and panting. And yet others, like owls and great blue herons, will vibrate their throat. It's called gullar fluttering. So here's an example. This is a great blue heron. And look at this gullar fluttering going on. And that's actually a mechanism that this bird is using to cool off. Many birds also have what's called a countercurrent vascular system. And that's where the arteries and the veins in their legs are very close together, and that allows heat exchange. The primary purpose of these is to minimize heat loss to their feet in cold weather. But in fact, the same thing can happen. They can shunt more blood to their legs during hot weather to allow some heat loss. And interestingly, animals that have big ears can also shunt blood to those ears in order to radiate some heat away from their body and cool their body temperature down. So again, you may have seen a loon do the foot waggle. Again, the loon lifts one foot out of the water and shakes it. And the actual reason for this is not known, but one theory is that they're using this as a thermoregulatory mechanism to help cool off. So let's watch the loon waggle, foot waggle. So there he stuck the foot out and started waggling it. Beaver, when we've talked about beavers, their tail has multiple functions. It helps the beaver stay upright when he's chewing on a tree. It acts like a rudder when he's swimming. It stores fat for use in the winter. But also the vascular supply helps radiate body heat, either in hot or cold temperatures. So you can see they can shunt blood out into this very large tail. And on a hot day, shunting blood there can actually help them cool off. The great blue heron often adopts this statue-like posture in order to cool off, and it's releasing body heat, releasing heat from their body, and it allows the cool breezes to reach areas of their skin that have fewer feathers. And this works both ways. They'll do this in the mornings on to warm up after a cool night, but then during the hot part of the day, they'll use it to cool off. Okay, bears don't sweat, so they have lots of fur, so they're very vulnerable in hot weather. So they seek out shade during the day and they'll move around more at nighttime. And they may rest on cool, damp soil or spend hours swimming and lounging in water sources like lakes, streams, or even your backyard pool. And they'll also pant to help cool off. And on a hot spring day, before the deciduous trees have any leaves, the cubs often climb up white pines to get some shade and avoid overheating on a sunny day. Deer are crepuscular. They like to browse at dusk and dawn. And during the day, they often rest in shaded areas. So here you see a group of deer that are resting in a shaded area in some relatively tall grass. And they're pretty good swimmers, so they may just wade in the water to cool off. And they'll also pant in order to reduce their body temperature. Red foxes, during the blistering heat of the day, they'll seek out deep shade or they'll retreat to some underground burrows in order to regulate their body temperature and conserve some energy. And they also switch their hunting pattern to become mainly nocturnal hunters. And they can also pant. And again, because they have relatively large ears, they can shunt blood to their ears, and that radiates heat away from their body to help cool them down. Gray foxes are usually nocturnal or crepuscular, and during the daytime, they spend their time sleeping either in dens or in trees. Uh, and that activity may help them avoid predators that are more active during the day. But sleeping in a den or the shade of a tree actually helps keep them cool. Coyotes, in hot weather, coyotes switch their behavior to becoming strictly nocturnal or crepuscular. So they're now shifting their hunting activity to dusk, dawn, or nighttime. And that helps them avoid that peak temperature. And they can also rest in dense shaded cover or even underground burrows. And they also pant just like dogs do in order to produce some evaporation of moisture from their tongues. So here you see a coyote that's panting like a dog does. And they frequently seek out water sources for drinking, and they'll actively cool off near natural corridors like beaver dams or shaded stream edges. Reptiles, turtles and reptiles and amphibians are cold blooded. And that means they're dependent on the environment to regulate their body temperature. So you've all seen turtles, maybe snakes, out sunning themselves in order to keep warm. But if it's too hot, they'll actually move to cooler areas, either under leaf litter or rotting logs or submerge themselves in water. And sometimes they'll do anything. Okay, it may sound gross, but this works. These are turkey vultures. Turkey vultures and some other birds will actually excrete waste onto their legs, and evaporation of that waste will help keep their body temperatures cool. So don't forget your pets on these hot days as well. Keep their outdoor time brief. Move your pets to air conditioned areas during peak heat. Limit their walks to early morning or late evening when the temperatures are cooler, and avoid really long walks or runs on these hot days. And especially avoid hot asphalt or concrete. So walk them on only grass or in the shade where possible. You may also assess the temperature of the concrete or asphalt by putting your hand on it. And if your hand gets really hot after 5 seconds or so, it's too hot for the dog. And you always want to make sure that you provide ample fresh water for your pets. And especially never leave a pet unattended in a parked car, just like you don't want to leave your children or your grandchildren in a parked car. Leaving a pet unattended in a parked car is asking for trouble. And watch for signs of heat stroke, like excessive panting. So that's a little bit about what wildlife do in these hot temperatures. So hopefully you'll avoid the hot temperatures, but now you know a little bit about what some of the animals do as well.